Everyone is listening to the Ukrainian news in connection with the intrigue that is unfolding in Istanbul right now. But let's not forget about the tragedy of Gaza and in general the tragedy of the Palestinian territories, as well as the problems of the Middle East, which were created as a result of the absolutely reckless, aggressive policy of NATO countries. What is happening now in the Asia-Pacific region, which, in order to give its policy a clear anti-Chinese orientation, the West began to call the Indo-Pacific region, hoping to get an additional opportunity to confront our great friends and neighbors, India and China. President Putin recently mentioned this policy again. Divide and rule. Take what is happening in Southeast Asia and around it. Western colleagues, as in any other part of the world, want to play the main role here, want to undermine the central role of the ASEAN. At first, Zelensky made some statements that he demanded that Putin arrive personally. Well, a pitiful person, but everyone understands, except probably himself and those who trick him. Then his senior comrades explained to him that he should not be so stupid. He should behave himself. Negotiations are needed. By the way, in the last 3 or 4 days, the West has somehow pushed back the word truce. We explained in great detail that... By the way, Macron was asked. He did an interview here 3 days ago. He said that negotiations and meetings are needed. But everything must be done to ensure that the main thing is a truce, and Ukraine must come to the negotiations from a position of power. Here is an elementary answer. This is a sincere recognition of why a truce is needed. To pump up Ukraine so that it is prepared for negotiations from a position of power. Macron was explained that this is not the point. The Americans supported the proposal of our president. Negotiations must be given a chance. No one guarantees that everything will be smooth, without problems. On the contrary, there will be problems, as it happened 3 years ago in Istanbul, when the approved principles were ready to be put on the agreement paper, and the British banned the Kiev regime from continuing the process that could be finalized and regulated. And now the British are leading Zelensky under the jungle of world politics. Why would the Western curators of the Kiev regime not advise or even insist that they announce the cancellation of all the laws that violate the UN Charter, the UN Convention, and the Constitution of Ukraine? That would be the result. And this should not cost the Americans or the Europeans anything. America always promotes the slogan of human rights. And here, simply returning the regime to normalcy is not a concession. This is the fulfillment of what you signed. And you were trusted in your time. Why is the West so reluctant to strike a strategic blow to us on the battlefield? Well, they probably don't like that Russia is independent. Now they are diverging in their views, Europe and the United States. Trump's administration, of course, also wants to make America great and number one. Any administration in the United States will promote such a position. But the current administration should at least return to normality. All those warriors who came to us from the East, the most famous Tatar-Mongol League, could somehow negotiate in a humane way. And in the end, they did. By the way, it was the same with the Russian-Turkish wars. I just thought about it now. There was a lot of blood spilled from the eastern flank, but in the end, they somehow reached a mutually respectful balance. And on the left, the guys didn't calm down. There is a lot of evidence that neither Berlin, nor Paris, nor Brussels, especially London, really want peace in Ukraine at all. They decide that since the United States is moving away from active support, which, by the way, will be projected on NATO, Europe should somehow think about itself. Macron has already invented some European army, is ready to put its nuclear warheads in a common pot. And in this situation, they still have, according to our information, direct talks between them. It is impossible to stop the mobilization of Europe against Russia. The question of what kind of military capabilities Ukraine will have is far from clear. There can be no foreign military presence here. As for the prospects, diplomacy is not about guessing, but about doing it. And to do it, you have to do it professionally.
En Ukraine, en Europe, donc. Ça, c'est la première question. Et M. Zelensky, dopage, que les sportifs russes ne pourraient plus participer aux Jeux Olympiques.
Да, чтобы был мир, и все для этого готовы делать. Спасибо. Мне кажется, вы интеллигентные люди, уступим место.
On va laisser le président terminer. Je remercie chacun du travail qui a été fait et je remercie les présidents et madame.
Mr. President, comment passent les négociations? Mr. President, comment passent les négociations?